Okay, here's the colonies from Youngsville that had the drones through the summer. They still have drones, I think. I last checked them a few weeks ago. They had drones. This one didn't have as many, but there were a small number of drones. Um, this colony was an absconding swarm, I think. It was really small during the dearth, and it was really light colored bees. So there's a drone. Usually drones are black here, but yeah. So this might be an Italian bee colony that was dying and absconded from a beekeeper's hive, maybe. But it's not susceptible to mites that I can tell. It's pretty resistant because there's no um, feral mites. I've not caught a swarm with that were susceptible to mites. I've only bought bees that's the only way I got mite susceptible bees in the past is by buying bees. But still, they might have a high percentage of the commercial Italian bee because they're doing the washerboarding. I've not seen this before with local bees. I've not caught many swarms in the past, so it might be swarms that leave beekeepers' hives. You catch them occasionally. Yeah, washerboarding's weird. They're, I remember having that when I first kept bees. We bought bees. They're varroa susceptible bees. And we bought some Italian bees last year or a year, 2 years ago that all uniformly did this. They all, like all 14 or so, would do this washerboarding. So there's a trickle of nectar probably here because they have drones. And I think that's from the city, the Youngsville. I've not kept bees in the city before. So this first year doing this, I have another colony in Wake Forest, within the city of Wake Forest. It's also had a few drones out when I checked a few months ago. Small number though, not many. The Italian bee hybrids are, I have one colony or two that are hybrids. They survived. They went bred 2 generations down. They're really resistant to varroa. Those were the Italian bees we bought a year or two ago. So it only takes a few generations, as if the varroa resistance is dominant. So that's weird. When I first kept bees, it took 4 generations to get them resistant. But they started out more resistant than these Italian bees that we bought this past year. So that's weird. It's maybe a local strain of commercial bees that somehow breed to their kind here. And these we got the Italian bees from last year were not local, so they didn't maintain their susceptibility or their purity. Maybe I don't know why they just suddenly became resistant. One might have been usurped, one of those Italian bee colonies, by a local bee colony. It happened during the May, I think, during the end of the nectar flow. The bees turned dark colored all of a sudden from a light colored Italian bee colony. I'm not sure though, it could be just the queen changing. Cool. Now this is a local bee colony, I'm pretty sure. It had dark thoracic hair drones, and it doesn't do that washerboarding. Oh well, they might do it, it's just on a small scale. So local bees don't do the large scale washerboarding. So you can see they are cleaning a bit. And the nectar flow might be stimulating them to do this too. They become more active. I mean, a trickle, it's still a dearth, but this is an area I think in the city where we get more, a less severe dearth, more of a trickle, slight bit. In the wintertime, they'll start getting a trickle of nectar from the red maples. It's a good time of the year. It relieves the bees once the winter starts. They'll even have, I think, usurpation swarms in the winter. The nectar flow stimulates that, I think. It's a trickle. It's still a dearth during the winter. It's just it alleviates the dearth during the winter time when I think the red maples start blooming. The bees become more docile. And when the red maples start blooming in earnest, or a lot of them start blooming in February, the bees start becoming active. They go all over the place. This year was not good though. It was a poor nectar flow. So they stayed quiet during the red maple blooms. They just got a trickle, hardly much at all. And these past 3 years, actually, it's been that way. 3 years. That's a while. This year was the worst. In the mountains, these bees would be bearding because the mountains they get a nectar flow there. Bees are high, like the height of their populations during the summer. It's hot in the mountains too, or not that hot, but when there's a lot of bees in there, that actually does make them hot. The bees produce heat, so they'll be bearding. I noticed that. It was weird. I never had bee colonies active during the warm season. Here it's the springtime. That's interesting. Bees were all over the place, like a huge mass, really big population. So here in the lower elevation, it's hotter, but some reason because of that lower population, they're not bearding during the summer dearth. They only do it when the nectar flow ends, or during the springtime, like March, if it gets up to like 80s or 90 degrees. We had once get up to 90 mid-March. But then bees here don't beard. They don't have that, so they're inactive. That was funny. I didn't expect bees to overheat in the mountains. I kept these small entrances like this, actually bigger than this, and the lady there at the farm said, one of them knew about bees, and she said they need some space, so an entrance. I thought impossible. These bees, they're from the hotter climate of central North Carolina, the Wake Forest. And then when I went up to the mountains, I thought, oh wow, never seen this before. A whole mass of bees. Well, no, I have, but only occasionally I see bees doing that. A huge mass of bearding. If I feed them a whole lot of sugar syrup and get a hot day. But the mountains were most extreme. The bees were fanning rigorously, trying to get all that heat out. So these bees, they don't have very thick bands, but they are thicker than German black bees. So I used to think that maybe they were German black bees, or maybe Saharan bees or something. But genetic testing here, they show more the Carnica or the C lineage, like maybe Greek bees, Carnica, Italian bees, some Italian genetics. So that's probably what they are that I have here. The dark thoracic haired drones, probably just a small percentage of the German black genes in them, or Tunisian bees like from Africa, Northwest Africa, just a small percentage, or a small percentage of Saharan. It's possible too, since we have a summer dearth in this area. That's kind of makes sense that they would be have that type of bee around here. I would think there's a summer dearth type of bee. Yeah, these guys, they are thinner banded than the Italian bees that I've seen. The commercial Italian bees, they're a little darker colored, and they're thinner banded slightly. So maybe they are a mixture, a small amount of that German black bee that makes them do that. This one definitely has some like maybe half dark thoracic haired drones. Half of them are that way, about half. So it's something like that in them, at least a little bit German black. Even though they're light colored, as you see, they're mostly light colored.